Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan and it's not Spawn Year. It is day 72 of my comic review video day calendar. And I've been reviewing a lot of issues through Bat March, including the Riddler in them. And that has, with all these disparate various Batman titles that I've been talking about, and very few of those have been intentional. He just keeps kind of rearing his questionable head in things. And so I thought today I would just put him right up front and pick something that has the Riddler in the title. This is Batman Riddler, and this does have a subheading that's not on the cover. It's always weird when this happens with graphic novels or kind of oversized one-shots. This is one of those kind of awkward lengths where it fits somewhere in between there. It's long enough. You could kind of call this a graphic novel, sort of like something like Gotham by Gaslight, which I never think of as an oversized one-shot, but it's kind of more this length. This is probably, 40, 45, 50 pages. But anyway, this is called Batman Riddler, The Riddle Factory, and has, I think, kind of a fun initial premise. It's a solid idea that suffers quite a bit in execution, and I've got a lot of issues with this. It's kind of disappointing, ultimately, by the end. I'm sorry to say. I'll just throw that out right out the gate. But of course, I'll break it down and tell you what I enjoyed and what I didn't with this, as I always do. This comes out in 1995 and is kind of a tie-in to Batman Forever, at least with marketing. And there was a Two-Face one as well. So these don't actually have anything to do with the story of Batman Forever. They're not set in that continuity, and they are in mainstream Batman continuity. So this counts. This happens, for better or worse, in that world. Not that I would necessarily remember it after that. I'm pretty sure I got this back around when it came out, or maybe I found it at a flea market or something a year or two later. I don't know exactly where I got this one, but I was on a big Jim Carrey high, and the Riddler on the cover of this is certainly, patterned after that sort of Riddler, where he's in the book, of course, he's not just manic, he's zany, he's over the top, he's whimsical, he's got a lot of mood swings, he's real Gorshin-y, and he's like, woo, and he's just, totally out to lunch and dancing around, making a fool out of himself. And that was really appealing to me after Batman Forever. So I was kind of hoping that this would be like the Jim Carrey Batman, Forever sort of Riddler book. And it is, but it's not great. I didn't have as much fun with it as I did that movie, probably. But I also don't remember reading this. I'm telling you why I probably picked it up. I don't actually remember ever looking at this, so I'm not sure if I did. I've mentioned before that I was as much of a collector, actually more of a collector than a reader, early on, where I liked comics. I occasionally cracked open comics, but I was a lot more interested in amassing them and getting cool looking covers. And I learned about comics like a lot of people, a lot of kids, as much through encyclopedias, for DC and Marvel comics, and kind of who's who books and that sort of thing, and then later with the internet, just researching things as much as I did actually reading single issue comics, because I didn't follow anything in real time. So anyway, this one is written by Matt Wagner of Grendel fame. Matt Wagner drew and wrote both Mage and Grendel. Kind of curious that he is not doing art on this, he's just writing it. This one is drawn, by Dave Taylor, who had a pretty long stint on a Batman book just after this. He did Shadow of the Bat with Alan Grant. And I don't right off know what his work in that book looks like. I didn't go back and check. I've read a little bit of his stuff, I'm sure. But I know that he got disillusioned with comics a little bit later after this. I think he quit somewhere in the mid-2000s. And he just didn't like the increasingly harsher deadlines, and that he had to have an inker come in and ink his books for him because he had to rush the art out so hard. And I wonder if he was maybe already starting to feel the pressure of that here, because I don't think he's a bad artist. I just think his art in this is a little sloppy, a little inconsistent, and it does look kind of rushed. We've got also some just super strange looking faces in this. I don't know what he's thinking with this weird Riddler face here, or he's like that, like a Ninja Turtle action figure. Why does he look like that? What are we doing? I think I like the colors with this book maybe a little bit more than I like the faces and the character models. Some pages are a little nicer than others, but overall it looks real rushed. It kind of looks like a whole comic if it were drawn by way of political cartoon or something. But I guess Taylor comes back later on just to finish his history real quick and starts. And I don't know how long he went, but he was a big fan of Judge Dredd, and I guess the only thing that would bring him back to comics was Dredd, and he did indeed end up doing some of that. So hopefully that was a happy ending or a continuation for his career. I don't know if he's still drawing comics to this day. He's British. I think he, thus the Judge Dredd interest. I think he still lives in the UK. I'm not totally sure, but both of these guys are still with us. Anyway, so this could be a shorter one. I mean, I should never say that because then I end up, rambling on for half an hour. But I don't feel like I have a ton to say about this one despite its length. I feel like it's twice as long as it needs to be. I feel like it's real wordy and overwritten, and I feel like it's sometimes a bit of a slog because of the kind of stilted voices, I'm sorry to say, I feel like Wagner has for some of the characters here, particularly Batman, who just cannot stop calling people friend. Just stay right there, friend. This real stilted kind of, even for 1995, like very old school, and not in a real charming way, just kind of generic sort of voice for Batman. And his Riddler just keeps talking and talking, kind of like Deadpool. And like the Riddler is a talker, certainly, but I kind of have pacing issues and structural issues with this, where right at the gate, the idea is kind of neat, where the Riddler, and this feels like he's almost cribbing from a Joker plot or something. He goes on public access television, so he's not hijacking a major signal or anything, but he has his own underground game show, and he brings people on and humiliates them in front of his viewers in order to get at skeletons that are in the closets of major public officials and rich CEOs and that sort of thing. So he gets them to come on camera, and I can't always tell if, I don't think they're kidnapped, because we're told, and this is kind of interesting. We're told in this first scene with Batman and Gordon that the Riddler is really only doing like minor petty crimes. He's not going all that far right now. Gordon says that he's just breaking a few FCC regulations, and that's about it. And I think he has somehow coerced these like major players in white collar Gotham to show up to his game show, and he's got all these other contestants that want to be there that are answering riddles. And so the Riddler as a game show host is a great idea. So we'll find out that the Riddler is trying to uncover a mystery, uncover a riddle, at the same time as he is using riddles as the questions in his quiz show. And if you get it right, you get kind of pointless, lame prizes like mugs and shirts and things, which all these contestants seem excited to get just because they want to go on television. There is a little bit of social commentary about the irrational way that people act in order to get their 15 minutes of fame, and the Riddler is really capitalizing on that, and also seems to be interested in fame himself. So he understands the psychology, and that's why he's able to take advantage of it, I think. And if you lose, you have, kind of awful, embarrassing things that happen to you, and nothing that causes permanent damage. He's not actually really hurting anybody, but so it's not Running Man. It's more like adult Nickelodeon, where it's kind of. And I don't mean that all of Nickelodeon's game shows were this way, but I just mean it's like it's real least common denominator. It's all about the slapstick. The Riddler might as well be sliming people. Again, it's kind of humiliating, but it's not like the Running Man, where people are dying based on the pranks that the Riddler is playing on them if they get these riddles wrong. But so I guess when Batman talks about the Riddler's victims here, he's really talking about the Riddler ruining people's reputation. And so the big mystery here for Batman, the detective story of it all, is he's trying to figure out what Riddler's real game is here. It can't be enough that he just wants his own TV show, that he just wants this game show. And because you'd think that if that was all he was after, if it was just fame, he might try to get he might try to get that job legitimately, and that would almost be a cooler story, really, where you had a Riddler that seemed to be going straight, and his new job is game show host, and he's got his own show called Riddle Me This, which is the name of the show here, and he's really just trying to. And like, it looks like he's trying to go straight, but we're wondering what his actual end game is. I don't want to rewrite this or anything, but I think the reason I'm thinking of other things that would seem more intriguing and interesting to me is because when you get to the end, it's real typical and kind of a letdown, the revelation of what the Riddler is really after. So he's gone to these 3 different venues that he's managed to rent, and he's at first it looks like he's moving around to different locations because he doesn't want to get caught. But it turns out it's really because he's found a treasure map. Okay. And the treasure map doesn't tell him exactly where the loot is that he's after, but he's able to ballpark it based on this map that he finds, apparently. All the details with this, by the way, are really ambiguous. Batman makes these kind of easy random deductions by the end, where he's like, okay, you have a treasure map, and it's telling you like approximately where, but not exactly where, which is why you're having to get all these different venues and have a game show around sort of close to where the stuff is. And so the idea is the game show is just a ruse. It's like a front company kind of thing, or a front venue, I should say. And the Riddler's hired henchmen to go and search for this treasure, which was planted by somebody who was evading his taxes back in the 20s, and it's all money that he got from making alcohol during Prohibition. That's the idea. And for whatever reason, I feel like this is, a little bit of a hackneyed story where, like, there's a lot of easier ways he could probably go about going to these places without anybody realizing what he's doing. And I will say, I do like the his motivation, where it is classic Riddler. He just wants to prove he can do this. It's just that there's a riddle, and he's compelled to solve it. So he's compelled to leave clues himself, but he's also got to find them, which is why he's so good at the riddles and the clues in the first place. I should also say this is probably the largest number of riddles I've ever read in a single Riddler story, and a single comic, or even maybe the length of a longer arc, like a whole bunch of different riddles here. And again, a lot of that's because he's doing this game show where it's all about the riddles, and some of them are clever enough, and some of them I honestly did not understand what the riddle was even getting at. Wow, that's a weird face, right? on this page. But anyway, when I say that his plot is kind of overly complicated, I don't really get why it's got to be these CEOs accept to just do some CEOs and public officials and people that have, like I said, skeletons in their closets, except to just do some kind of basic standard social commentary in our comic books. So we're dealing with television and how easy it is to manipulate people with the promise of recognition, and with the kind of base and tasteless sorts of entertainment that people consume with television. There's maybe a little bit of RoboCop in here, I would say. And that's one of the couple things that it has in common with Batman Forever. The commentary is a little bit different, I think, in what exactly they're getting at with television. Where Batman Forever, it's more about the TV as the idiot box, and here it's more about the other end of it, people's obsession with getting on TV. Like, now you've made it. If you're there for any reason whatsoever, it doesn't even matter what it says about your reputation. It's just that you made it. People have seen you. It doesn't matter what the context is. Whether you have to lose your integrity in order to do that, I think is the kind of surface level, underlying idea behind this. It's not really getting at anything more, anything deeper than that. It's just kind of there, on the surface. And again, I just don't really get why he's got to have this plot with the like elite of Gotham on top of that whole thing, really. He decides that his fourth victim is going to be Bruce Wayne. And I don't really get how Batman deduces that either. He just goes, if my calculations are correct, or if my gut is right, the next person he's going to go after is Bruce Wayne. Okay, like he even says early on, the only thing that all these people have in common is that they're very wealthy and well known. Like that's it. It's Gotham City. Are we out of rich people already after the 3 that he's done so far? Okay. And I don't really understand that. And so it turns out that Batman's right. Riddler indeed does go after Bruce Wayne, and he's uncharacteristically sloppy and not thinking very far ahead, because he decides to try to get Bruce Wayne to be his next victim on his game show before he's figured out any kind of skeletons in his closet. And so he's looking for any controversy, any scandal, any mistake that Bruce has made. And he can't find any. And I like the irony of that, okay, where if only he knew that Bruce Wayne was Batman, he would have something on him. And it's kind of fun, after just doing a commentary recently on the Batman, that a long time before that, and this is nothing like the Batman, but you have the Riddler, going after Bruce Wayne and trying to make him a victim, and not realizing that he's Batman, and it would change everything for him if he knew that. It's kind of interesting that this has that in common with that movie. Again, obviously, there's a decent amount of Batman Forever here, especially in attitude. The only other thing, story-wise, that is here from that is just that, and this happens off-panel, Two-Face, I guess, aids him in some way. I forget what, but there's one panel where he mentions he got something from Harvey. And Two-Face doesn't even appear in the book. That's just kind of an offhanded mention. So anyway, it's kind of weird that the Riddler wouldn't, make sure that he knew what horrible thing in Bruce's past he was going to try to exploit before he gets him there. But he doesn't do that. And then he's like, oh crap, I don't have anything. I'll just make something up. And then Bruce shows up, and of his own volition, and he knows what Riddler's after, what he's going to do, and he goes, I dare you to figure out what terrible thing I've done, and he doesn't have anything, and the crowd is really unimpressed with him. And so it messes up his game show. He has to end it early, and then ultimately, in very quickly in like 2 pages, as Riddler is like right on top of the treasure, Batman's able to corner him and stop him, and ultimately, I guess he gets arrested. Not so much for the game show thing, which was barely illegal at all, but more because he tried to steal old prohibition money that was just like buried. And his scheme's just not even that menacing. There's not all that much at stake. It's just a real routine, ultimately, treasure hunting kind of story. Like, I don't know why I'm supposed to really care whether Riddler succeeds at this or not. Like, okay, so what? He gets the treasure from a guy that's been dead for decades that buried it during Prohibition. Like, I don't really get it. I don't know what's compelling about that, really. Oh, it's interesting, by the way, and I don't know if this is on purpose, but there are a few panels like this where Taylor has, it seems, drawn Riddler's ears from the back to look like question marks. I don't know if he did that on purpose, but yeah, this is a weird one. And like I said, just look how long it is with the synopsis I gave you. There's not really all that much more going on than what I just described. So yeah, I'm a little hard on this one. I was not super impressed with it. And that's a bit of a letdown because I, of course, really like the Riddler a lot. But it's also not surprising because with a comic this size, you'd think that if this was real great, people would remember it and would be talking about it. And I bet a lot of you guys have never heard of this book before. Anyway, thanks so very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you again tomorrow with yet another Batman comic for review on Not Spawn Year for Bat March. I was Captain Logan. Happy reading.